Hi, friends. This is the math lesson for second grade. This is Unit 5, Lesson 1. We will be splitting this lesson into two parts. Before we get started, I want you to make sure that you give your family the family letter. This kind of goes over what we're going to be learning about in the next few lessons. So it's important that your parents, your pod teachers, your family knows what you are learning about so they can help you. This is on page 221. Now, before we get started in our lesson, I want to make sure that you have watched the Brain Pop video called Parts of a Clock. If you haven't watched it yet, please pause the video, go to Canvas and watch it because that'll be very helpful for our lesson. All right, let's get started. We are on page 223. I would like you to take a minute and think about some of the clocks you have seen before. And just write down anything that comes to mind. Some of the clocks you've seen before. So maybe you've seen clocks that look like this. This is called an analog clock. Now, if you have something written down that's different, that's totally fine. Maybe you have seen watches. Those have a clock on them. Maybe you have seen like a clock tower. I think in the movie Peter Pan, you can see a clock tower. That's a big giant tower that can be seen from all over a city, and it shows the time on it. Maybe you've seen an alarm clock, a digital clock. Maybe those two are the same thing. A digital clock is only numbers, not any minute hands or hour hands like this, which we'll talk about in a minute. So lots of different ways that we use clocks and different kinds of clocks that we see throughout our day to day. Maybe you just use a clock on your phone or your Alexa or your iPod, right? So there's clocks everywhere. There's definitely one on the Chromebook that you're using right now or your computer that you're using. Okay, so first, we are going to take a look at these analog clocks. Now, analog clocks are the ones that they're typically a circle, and they have numbers on them. Now, sometimes you might see a clock, maybe on a watch, that just has no numbers, kind of like this one, not even a 12. You might see some that have just a few numbers, but typically you will see clocks that have all of the numbers. So on a clock, you will see that at the top is always going to be a 12, and at the bottom is always going to be a 6. And then every one of these darker lines is a number. So it goes all the way from 1 back up to 12. The 12 spot is kind of like a 0, too. So we have 12, 1. So in here we'd have a 2. Right here we'd have a 3 and then a 4. A 5, 6, 7, and an 8, a 9, a 10, and an 11. So I would like you to carefully complete number 3 and number 4. Okay, let's see how you did. If you're not quite done, go ahead, pause the video, and then when you're ready, go ahead and press play. So I'm going to start. Here's my 12. I know I have a 1, a 2. My 3's already there. 4, 5, 6 is already there. 7, 8, 9 is already there. 10 and 11. And then here's the big one. Are you ready? A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Whew! All right. Excellent job. So now we're going to talk about what we call the hands on a clock. So on an analog clock, so this is the one that's like circular with the numbers that you can see, there are 2 hands. So there is a minute hand and an hour hand. Now, one of the hands is shorter and one of them is longer. And you guys are so lucky that even one in your book is actually kind of thicker and darker. Okay. So it says the long hand is the minute hand and the short hand is the hour hand. Now, I'm going to tell you a little trick on how to remember that. So if I have the word hour and the word minute, which one of these words is longer, hour or minute? Minute is longer, and it is the long hand. Hour is shorter, and it is the short hand. So hour, shorthand, minute, longhand. This is just something that you will have to memorize, okay? Because you will have to know the difference between them forever, even though analog clocks aren't seen as often anymore now that we have digital clocks. Okay, so what it wants you to do is it wants you to circle the hour hand on each of the clocks. So remember, hour is the short hand. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to circle all of my short hands. Go ahead and do that on number 6 and number 7. And as you can tell, it is a little darker on each one, a little darker, a little thicker. Now at the bottom for 8, 9, and 10, it wants you to circle the minute hand. So we know the minute hand is the longer one. There we go. So hour, shorthand, minute, longer hand. All right, when you are ready, go ahead and turn your paper over. So now we are going to talk about AM and PM. And AM and PM can be very confusing, mostly because of the way we say it when we're talking. So you might, if you know that you go to bed, let's say you go to bed at 8 p.m. and let's say you, which is 8 o'clock at night, and you wake up at 2, okay? So it's actually called 2 a.m., 2 in the morning, but you might say, oh, I woke up in the middle of the night. So it's kind of confusing because you might say I woke up in the middle of the night, but really you're waking up in the early morning. So it's kind of confusing. Let's see what it has to say. In the blue box, it says, we use AM for the hours after 12 midnight. So once it's midnight until 12 noon. So 12 midnight, you're asleep. Then you wake up, maybe wake up around 7 a.m. We start school around 9. And then all the way until 11:59 a.m., right before 12 noon, that is all considered AM. So it means in the morning. AM means in the morning. Okay, so 9 a.m. is 9 o'clock in the morning. So we start school at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 a.m. Okay, now let's go over the other way. So we use PM for after it turns 12 noon until midnight, right before midnight, 11:59. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's talk. So 9 or 12 noon, so like lunchtime. Then you keep doing school. School ends. Then maybe you go outside and you play. Then it's dinner time. And then you have to go to bed. And then all of this is happening in the PM. And then once it gets to 12 midnight, it switches back to AM. Now, this can be confusing because you might say 9 p.m. is 9 o'clock in the evening, or you might say 3 p.m., which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So PM can mean afternoon or evening, okay? And I think that you just need to kind of practice this. And as the more you practice it, the better you're going to get with it. Okay. It is a little confusing. I understand. So maybe this chart will help. It says complete the chart. For each time listed, write whether it is dark or light outside, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, and an activity that you might be doing. So we have 4 a.m. So 4 a.m. is in the middle of the night, as we sometimes say, but we just learned it's not really night. So we know it's dark. It's technically part of the morning, and you're probably sleeping. So now I want you to think about 12:30 p.m. This is right after 12 noon. So right when it switches to p.m. So think about, is it light or dark, morning, afternoon, or night, and what might you be doing? Pause the video and think about that for a minute. Okay, so what you might be doing at 12:30 p.m., well, it's going to be light because it's in the middle of the day. It is in the middle of the day, like I just said, so it is called afternoon. Get it? Afternoon. Noon is at 12. And maybe you're eating lunch. If you're doing something else at this time, you can write that. Maybe you're watching your math video like you're supposed to be doing. All right, and 9 p.m. So we keep going through our day and then we get to 9 p.m. At 9 p.m., it is finally dark again. It is now night or evening. I guess that's what they want us to say. And what might you be doing? Maybe you're sleeping again. Maybe you're watching TV. Maybe you're reading before bed. So whatever you're doing at 9 p.m., which is probably in and around your bedtime, go ahead and write that. I'm usually watching TV. All right, last few, and then we are done with our lesson for today. So this time it says, for each activity, circle the most appropriate time. Okay, so when do you brush your teeth in the morning? So we know morning is a.m., right? So is it 1:30 p.m., 3 p.m., or 7:30 a.m.? 7:30 a.m. Eat dinner at night. So we know night and afternoon are p.m. So I need something that says PM. So is it 5 a.m.? No. 12 noon? That doesn't have AM or PM. So it must be 6 p.m. And finally, watch an afternoon movie. I want you to try this one on your own. Your key word is afternoon. All right, we know that afternoon means PM, so it's not going to be 3 a.m. That's in the middle of the night, as we say, but we know that's really early morning. So is it 2 p.m. or 6 p.m.? When would it be the afternoon? We said we're eating dinner at 6 p.m., so the afternoon must be 2. All right, my friends, that is it for today's lesson. However, if you would like to make your own clock, you can rip out page 225 and you can ask your parents to help you if they have like a little prong fastener. It's sometimes called a brad. And you can cut out your little arrows and you can make your own little clock. There's the arrows down there. All right, my friends, great job today. I'll see you later.